Yep.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking your valuable time. Um, did everyone get a agenda enough to see that the first item is approval of the April 1st minutes? If there's anybody out there that's read them and is willing to move their approval, that'd be great.
So moved.
Thank
Oh,
you.
good. Thank you. Someone bold enough to second that?
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Just a reminder, this is Tammy, why don't you speak to the open door legislation? Says you and Missy have thankfully got us live streaming here in accordance with some new legislation that you can describe perhaps.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. We were informed of House Enrolled Act 1167, which is new legislation concerning the open door requirements. As of July 1, we're required to, for public meetings, required to live stream the meeting. We're also required to record those meetings and then archive them along with the most recently approved minutes and the agenda. And to do that for at least 90 days. The URL for today's meeting is facebook.com /Porter County Pact. Now, moving forward, Missy has created a YouTube channel, so we will be utilizing that. And we will post that along with the meeting notices so that everyone has that. Scott McClure also suggested that I reach out to the IT guy from the county, which I've done, so we can put these on the county website moving forward as well. So, but yes, many thanks to Missy, who, just to introduce her to everyone, she's the newest person at PACT. She is serving as our recovery care coordinator, which is the position that represents the partnership we have with the city of Valparaiso for reducing barriers to recovery support and treatment and things like that. So we're thrilled to have Missy with us. So
Welcome, Missy.
Thank you.
All right. Under community corrections, we were reviewing the 2026 Justice Reinvestment Grant Award that's already been awarded, but I think we need to act on it nonetheless.
It's always such a strange vote because it's always based on numbers that were already approved. They just really, I think the purpose is making sure that the advisory board has been able to lay eyes on it. But as most of you are aware now, that we found out several months ago that right at the end of the legislative session, there was a decision made to cut the grant funds by $7 million. That the base of those funds, that, and it would impact programs across the state. It was basically what happened was the grant team at DOC was given the task of needing to go through and figure out how to use the remaining funds, distributing them statewide. And so they, there is this really old funding formula that they have, but they were looking at other factors involved in this. And one of the things that's always been of concern to community corrections is ensuring that the funds were available to continue to sustain the programs that have been in place that are designed to really divert people from incarceration in the Indiana Department of Correction into community-based programs, and to focus on those programs operating from models that are research supported to be effective in reducing future crime. So with that said, and that task ahead of them, they looked at the programs and had to decide what programs they were going to cut. And just for a bit of history with this and how the Community Corrections and Justice Reinvestment Grant process started was for years it was the Community Corrections Grant through the Department of Correction. Through the evidence-based decision-making initiative and the resulting JRAC downstate, the decision was made to bring in funding opportunities for jails and ultimately for pretrial and other programs in the state. And so that's when you can, if you remember the shift, we moved problem-solving case managers out of jail reporting, and they became their own grant under the umbrella of the Community Corrections and Justice Reinvestment Grant. It was also during this time that we were able to bring in pretrial that was funded in part through the Department of Correction grant, and we were able to start jail services in Porter County. So when DOC staff were looking at how to proceed with funding, the decisions that they made were to cut funding of jail services programs. Those were one of the newer programs that had become allowable under these funds. And the other was pretrial. And I think part of the thing that drove pretrial was the awareness that many of the pretrial programs were receiving at least some funding also from court services. These are two cuts that they felt they could make unilaterally across the state. Looking at that state budget was hard because a lot of people were impacted, a lot of programs impacted. In Porter County, we obviously lost part of what the grant funds to support the pretrial services project, which was begun in Porter County back in 2017. In Porter County, pretrial services receives funds from both Department of Correction and from the Indiana Office of Court Services. The Indiana Office of Court Services grant goes to probation, and it covers expenses through probation and funds a full-time officer at the Porter County Jail who works with the pretrial services. The part of funding that we lost was the funding that supported 2 assessment staff through PACT and the funds used to help provide public defenders at initial hearings to ensure meaningful representation. So Melanie's going to talk a little bit more about that transition process as PACT phases out this year and what that'll look like here in Porter County, at least sort of where we're at right now. But we lost the jail services program. I know that Pastor Berkey and others from the jail have talked about, I believe that they have the CDA program taken care of. At least that was the hope the last time I spoke with them. But in Porter County, we did not lose funding for our community corrections programs, meaning day reporting, home detention, and then also mental health court and drug court. I was honestly really surprised by that. We also did not lose any funding from court services for our drug court and our mental health court and our veterans treatment court. So while it was really difficult to see what happened statewide, we didn't have as much impact to some of the programs as I had anticipated. So with that said, the budget that I sent out looks at the funding awards for 2026. In those awards, you'll see that they are operating at the current level of funding. So the grant base is the same amount that we're working with currently. I emailed the budgets for each of those entities. It would be community corrections, which is day reporting and home detention. It's also mental health court and drug court. And I also included a summary. And like I said, the summary is just a 1 page, and it shows in the first column in bold, all of the areas that are funded through the Department of Correction grant. I also included in drug court and in mental health court the amounts of grant funds that we're going to receive for those entities as well. So you can see that the total that we'll receive in Porter County for 2026 is $679,770. We recently had a meeting downstate, and IACAC, I believe, is going to hire a lobbyist and begin preparing for the next budget session, really to begin to increase awareness and try and garner more support as we go into the next budget session. I know I believe it's 2027. So that's where we're at, Don. What we need to do today is just vote on whether we approve the 2026 grant awards.
Is there a motion out there?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Melanie.
A second. Wonderful. Any discussion,
Who was the second?
Allison?
Thank you, Allison.
Tammy, I just had a question in regard to the drug court budget versus the mental health court budget. The personnel line for that seems to be about 2.5 times in mental health court than it is for drug court. Are there additional case managers for that court, or why the discrepancy between the two problem-solving courts?
So in mental health court, we have 2 case managers, and in drug court, there's just 1 position.
And is that based on numbers of participants, or
Initially, yeah, we were actually, Judge, we were stunned when we got the additional case manager for mental health court. The program was new. We just put it in the grant. We anticipated that we were going to be serving more individuals. For a long time, drug court kind of averaged about 4 people. If we got 6, that was a big number. And you'll hear the difference in the caseload when I give a report in a minute. So I'm hopeful. I've had some conversations downstate that if at all possible, we really need to increase the staffing in drug court, because there are really some very good things coming out of that, and we want to make sure it's staffed appropriately.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion as seconded, please say aye.
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 Any opposition out there or abstentions? All right. Well, I was pretty stunned when I first heard the news, but with your wonderful explanation, Tammy, I suppose I begin to understand it better when you think about the origins of the Community Corrections Act meant to reduce people going to the prison, and pretrial obviously isn't even designed for that end result, as much as I support it. So I hope we can keep it going otherwise. And I presume Melanie may give us some answers to that shortly.
So yes, on the pretrial side, we are still in the process of going through certification from the state. We are working on firming up some of our pretrial practices and making adjustments based on best practices, and now have the added, I guess, the wrench in the system of also needing to replace 2 assessors. So we're also looking at better use of our available resources. On the probation side, we're going to end up having to move 2 of our supervision officers to replace the assessors that can no longer come from PACT services. So as part of that, like I mentioned, we're making adjustments to some of our practices, trying to figure out the best use of our resources, what we can do. We are fortunate that we did get grant funds from court services in the amount of about $250,000. So we're really grateful that those funds still exist for us. But the caveat to maintain those funds is that we do have to become a certified program. So that's where we're at right now, in the midst of that certification process and trying to overcome that new barrier that's put in front of us. But our policy team has been working on some ideas, and we are continuing to meet regularly. We do have to submit our revisions to the state by September 24th. So we have a deadline on that. And I would say by our next advisory board meeting, we should have some of those practices firmed up.
Thanks for all your hard work, Melanie, in getting that in place. Any questions of Melanie or comments?
Melanie, for the judges, Judge Drenth was working on all of that with you guys. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I don't think that he will be back before your next meeting. Are there needs that you have from the judges on that? I know we did have some discussion at our judges meeting last week about some of this. I don't know that anything was definitive as we discussed it. Is there anything that you guys need as judge liaison between now and the 24th when those have to be submitted that either I can help with or I can find another judge to help with since Judge Drenth is going to be out?
I think it would be important to have a representative of the judiciary participating because some of the decisions that we're making obviously impact the courts and decisions that are made in the courts. So if we know that Judge Drenth is not going to be back, if maybe we could have an alternate.
When are you meeting?
So our next meeting is Friday, September 5th, and it's at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Is that a Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. I will bring it up with the judges to see if someone's going to be available for that. I think I can almost guarantee that Judge Drenth will not be back by September 5th. So, okay.
Yes. So you'll follow up or do you want me to
Yes.
follow up?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll bring it up with everyone and I'll let you know our consensus or who we might be able to send.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that.
You are welcome.
Good plan. For program reports, Amisha, would you like to go first?
Everyone. I'm gonna hope that everybody read the report. I'm kind of under the weather a little bit, so I apologize if you can't hear me clearly. Day reporting caseload is 23. Out of that 23, 16 are active. We had 5 referrals in this past quarter. Currently right now, and we haven't, I guess since I've been doing stats, not had this, but we have no pending cases. We have no applications submitted and none waiting to be sentenced. So that's kind of a first for us. Terminations, we had 2 successful and 1 transferred from day reporting to a problem-solving court. Currently for CTP programming, we received 8 referrals. 4 of those are still pending, and we currently have none under supervision, nor any that have completed. We actually haven't had a CTP in quite a while. For the education department, we currently have for females 7 active with 3 pending, and we served 19 within the past quarter. For the males, we had 50 active currently with 20 pending entry and currently served 81 in this past quarter. For home detention, which still remains to be one of the popular programs for community corrections, we have 38 active. Of that 38, 26 are post-conviction, 2 pretrials. Again, no CTPs currently. We're not serving any problem-solving court. Well, actually, we do have 1 current right now. under GPS monitoring, and we have 3 juveniles we're serving. We have 12 cases that we're doing courtesy supervision. Well, actually, the receiving county is doing the monitoring. So we have 12 transfer cases. Referrals, we received 20 in that second quarter, 7 of them being in county, 6 of them being transferred out to a different county. And 7 of them in county, 6 of them being transferred into our county, and 7 of them being transferred out of our county. Pending cases, we have 21, 6 being in county, 7 being transferred into our county, and 8 being transferred out. For those of you all who've been here for a while, home detention seemed to have been a popular program for people being transferred in. That seems to be leveling out now, where it's pretty much equal between the referrals that we get from in county versus out of county. But prior, it was a lot more transferring in than our own folks we were serving. Number of terminations, we currently had 17. Of those 17, 12 adult successful and 13 were juvenile. And it's almost a 50-50 split of successful, unsuccessful. And typically, I would say those unsuccessful was technical violations for the juveniles. Some of those are, once they have the technical violation, they're removed off of the monitor. We close them out. However, we do know that they typically are coming back to us as well. So some of that number could also be a repeat number of the same individual. For pretrial, we were presented 661 cases in that second quarter. Of those 661 cases, we assessed 530 of them, and 131 of them were not assessed, and that could be they bonded out, they were in padded cell, or they declined. They could be in medical, having medical issues or things of that nature. Just a quick program update. In the home detention department, we are researching implementation of additional cost-effective monitoring equipment. One in particular we're looking at, it kind of looks like an Apple Watch, so it would not be a device on their ankle, but it would serve kind of a very similar purpose as the existing GPS device. And we're also looking at other different type of apps as well, tracking apps. And then in day reporting, we're looking to pilot a formalized family component or support person component in the day reporting center, where it would be the participant would identify a support person, and we would routinely begin to meet with the support person in addition to our participant. So we will let you guys know how that goes, and we're hoping to implement that formally in January. That's all I have.
Thanks, Amisha. Any questions of Amisha or comments?
Sorry,
Tammy,
I don't mean to be the
Yes,
problem
sir.
child here with all the questions, but since I'm new and wrapping my arms around this stuff, Amisha, what is when we're looking at these numbers, what is kind of the ideal number for you guys as far as managing caseloads? Like, what number starts to get too many? What is a pretty low population for you?
So I would say the day reporting is definitely a low number for us. We can take, just like the problem solving court, 15 to 1, and correct me, Tammy, if I'm wrong on that. And so we're nowhere near capacity in day reporting.
Okay.
Our referrals are very slow in that area.
In the home detention, what's typically the ratio?
Home detention, and I don't think we've changed that ratio at all over the years. The caseload we have right now, and again, that fluctuates depending on the number of juveniles we have. That one's always kind of a wild card number. I mean, I think the highest number we had was this summer was like 11 at any given time. However, our numbers for adult is pretty steady. We usually have on average about 25, and then our juveniles make up the remaining number. But we have, I would say, I don't know if juvenile will speak to this. Usually, when they start school and shortly after summer, we'll have a peak, and then they'll drop down, and then no peak. So we have our peaks and valleys for juveniles. But on average for our adults, I would say roughly 25 is our average number, which is manageable.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Allison, you were shaking your head. The numbers seemed right to you in your role for juveniles, I take it.
I would definitely agree with Amisha. There's peaks and valleys for sure.
Yeah. Any other questions of Amisha or comments? Hey, Tammy, do you have some program reports
I
to
do.
comment on as well?
Just a couple quick updates. Recovery Connection, just to let you know, our recovery coach team is serving 51 currently, and we have an average of 400 people coming a month to participate in groups at Recovery Connection. We're excited about our new advisory board. We're meeting again next week to put some of the final things in place to assemble this group. And then we're looking at putting together some events and things that just really result in collaboration among the recovery entities that facilitate unity and connection, things that target the reduction of stigma and all those sorts of things. So we're pretty excited about that. We found out Monday evening that we were awarded some funding to help support part-time recovery coach from the city on Monday. So we really appreciated that. In mental health court, we're currently serving a caseload of 15. The rated capacity in that program is 30. We have 4 being assessed for eligibility currently. We are looking forward to graduation in September. It's going to be held at the same place, the Butterfield Pavilion, at 2 p.m. on September 15th. Justice Goff from the Indiana Supreme Court will serve as a keynote. So we're really excited about that. And then we are looking forward to recertification of the program in the new year. So that date hasn't been set yet, but we'll be looking at probably February, I would imagine. Veterans Treatment Court, we have 10 participants, and the rated capacity in that is 15. There are 4 that have been assessed and just awaiting sentencing, and we received 1 new referral. So it's going to be hovering pretty close to capacity. This year we've had 5 graduates in the program, and no one has been discharged unsuccessfully. And we'll be doing recertification of the Veterans Treatment Court program probably also in January, February. And then finally, drug court. Earlier I had mentioned that, we were averaging probably a caseload of 4, and if we hit 6, that was a big number. We are currently serving 12. We've had 4 others that have been assessed and accepted. They are going to be entering in the next couple of weeks. We are currently assessing 5 more, and we received 2 new referrals this week. So drug court is really beginning to grow. We had 3 graduates. We didn't have any unsuccessful discharges. We have not had an unsuccessful discharge from drug court in over 2 years. It's really kind of crazy when you look at everybody in that program is high risk. We had 1 moderate, but after meeting with this person was just really more in the high risk area. Everybody has a diagnosis of either alcohol and or other substance use disorder. We recently had 3 participants advance to phase 2. We'll have 1 person graduate in September and another one move to phase 3 in October. So some pretty great things are happening in those problem-solving programs. We had, and this is just my nerd hat showing, but I was invited to serve on the through Indiana Office of Court Services. There's a certification rules revision committee. And so we had our first meeting this week, and it's just going over the problem solving court rules statewide and comparing it to the research for effective practices and looking at beginning to incorporate those and make sure that problem solving court certification rules are in alignment with those practices. So we also have the alumni, just one last thing. I've talked about that at each of the meetings. It's for problem solving court programs. The alumni leadership are attending court to talk with participants. They are holding monthly events that are inclusive to current participants, alumni. People can bring their families, their other support members, and then they hold a monthly Zoom solely for graduates, just as a way to offer support and encouragement. So lots of good stuff happening.
Thanks, Tammy, and thanks to all those that make the problem-solving courts work. Do we have any tracking numbers on recidivism, either specifically to our programs or more generally problem-solving courts?
So we'll be able to report on that really well into the next year. Court Services has had us over the past few years beginning to track that, right? And so it looks at rearrest while in the program, but also for rearrest occurring 36 months following graduation and 36 months following an unsuccessful discharge. So we're going to be able to report on that next time. But I do know, for instance, I can't remember the mental health court, but for drug court, the retention rate is 94% over time, and the graduation rate is 93%. And I want to say drug or veterans court is right there. So really strong data coming through our problem solving court and community corrections programs.
It's really encouraging. Any questions, comments of Tammy? Let's move on to the policy team meeting then.
So just to let everyone know, I talked about this during our last Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting. Don and I are meeting next month to put together the agenda for an October meeting. In that EBDM policy meeting, we'll be looking at reviewing our change target, which was pretrial, and then we'll also be looking at mental health. But what we will be introducing is also a review of post-sentencing and systemic use of that and the alignment of our practices with what the research is showing. Some of the things that we'll be doing a deeper dive into is really looking at really like professional competencies, the things that are shown through research to be effective. For instance, how we engage with participants, how we treat them, right? For years, the onus of change was put on participants and everyone, we focused on that, but the research is showing that there needs to be just as much emphasis on what practitioners are bringing to the table. And so it looks at our training, the areas and core competencies, things like that. So we'll be looking deeper into that through the policy team meetings. So that's going to be, it'll be good to get that policy team back together.
Any comments, follow-ups with Tammy on that? Okay, well, the next item I asked to be added, I'm sure many of you heard that the executive order from the president regarding cash bond. I'm not really sure how it's going to affect us or if it will. I would like it not to be politicized and suspect that the constitutional issues transcend political orientation. But I think we ought to be ready to deal with, we have a bond system and a pretrial program, kind of a bifurcated system in our county. If someone's going to be released on own recognizance, is that going to be considered to be a no cash bond? And if so, can we do some creative things to try to address that? Like, create a fund where there's a penny put in so we are exchanging something in the way of cash for a own recognizant release. And I'm sure Judge the Judiciary is going to be mulling over this, being on the front line. But I would hope we can avoid that with all the pretrial effort we've done and all the incredible research supporting the effectiveness of pretrial programs as we've implemented it. I'm hoping to do some more panels out in the community on issues related to this, so that the public gains an appreciation of why we do pretrial programs and the relative risks to the community of having nothing like that as opposed to what we're doing. And any thoughts or follow-ups on that? Any other updates or announcements? All right, I've got the next meeting down as October 21st at 4:15 again by Zoom. Again, really appreciate everyone's time, input, and efforts. We've got an amazing system, I think. Thanks for your input. Anything else good for the cause, or should we close off and let you get home? All right.
Don, if I
Thank
could,
you.
thank you everyone for all your support. We very much appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Night.